carving a sculpture out of my flesh in movement, a chiseled pattern of locomotion. I am the wind, and the wind is dancing. I am spoken, and the word spoken is a tornado of spiraling twisters, gusting gales of wind that sing the registry of kings and the mystery of queens. I am an era of commentaries, a terrified measure of what frustration breeds in a fellow. I am a collection of steps and takes on the mist of aim. I am a symbol of dreams that have streamed across history to move a dance as I do across this stage and page. I am a composition of comedic tremors and calculated risks, an instinct for reflex into vision, a gradually accumulated intuition, a practice. Am I on the instance of my process in the substance, taking a stance of steady firmaments? Because before me lies a vast trek of treacherous terrain, an unbefore-seen line of inquiry, a maniac on the loose, chasing after his wild child in a crowd of geniuses, spotters and watchers, night crawlers and dream snatchers. The whispers of the crowd grace my ear. They pluck strings on my drum to the canal of my mind, cosmic colors of vibrations, played on the ecosystem of neural correlates to the mileage of my brain. Can I paint with sound and color with sweat? Can I illuminate the lines of my shadow and stand beside him like a sack of bone and taut strands of flesh? Have I done the needful to seek out my rest? Have I figured out the want of my need to say, to stay, to lay waste, to be swift, brief, and quick? All long ways taken at warp speeds and dark lights. It was a stark, cloudy night, not a star in sight, enveloping blackness, stretching far beyond the limits of infinity. At the point of infinity, nothing and expanse, the vastness of space, luscious and supple, a pond so still, a drop of focused ripples, a finite cascade of waves, and emotion. Infinity in motion, awareness of stance, movement, and the infinite glance. Shall I say that you have arrived, and I am yet to find you? Shall I say that words without your grace wither and become bitter? Shall I say that words accompanied by your splendor strengthen and invigor? Shall I say that neither makes words all the better? Shall I say that words in solitude have a certain class of rigor? Shall I say that a word is never destitute, only the mind which proffers it? Can I say that words are marvelous, a reflection of thought into being, failing to identify it as a word? Mountains, rivers and trees, deserts, valleys and shade, an array of parts, failing to identify it as a word. Mountains, rivers and trees, deserts, valleys and shade, an array of parts from the traveling word, having noted the myriad of minds and eyes, calls and songs, days of the long night drawn strong, and rhymes that tunnel the catacombs of necropolis, confusing the wandering word on a quest for Optimus. I have disgraced myself when I couldn't handle my poetry. I misplaced myself when my poetry couldn't handle me. I intentionally indulged myself, manifesting misery to panic by the simple narrations of my mind, an internal battle between what I want to do and what I think I want to do and what I think I should do and what I think I should be wanting to do. Indecision becomes the plaything of my tormentors. Four characters played like the strings on a violin. They marshal their art and cycle through the moment of my movements. No mind in control, but sometimes the mind gets ahead of itself, runs crashing into the body like a charging grisly. Poetry, I am the friend you don't see. Poetry, you are the friend I don't see. I keep you company in the silence of my time. I keep you company in the silence of time. You keep me company in the stillest of minds. And we sit and we ponder. What are poems if not the dreams of their poets? What are poems when their dreams are poets? What are poems if not the dreams of their poets? Itachi Uchiha. What are poems when their dreams are poets? The will of thee. What are poems if poets are only poems? Portuguese DS. Oh shit. A written recollection of impressions, a formulated phrase, with rumors of a lingering tempest, a carriage so turbulent a child at play, a freedom so wild a mile meets pain at its limits, an energy so excitedly calm. An inch stretches eternally intricate. Without gods, the lightning is my own. Without gods, the thunder is mine. Thanks to a nameless pantheon, my gods are the puppets of my image. And the forces of probability fill images of me having met the gods of history. Tiny mythic moments accompanied by the ongoings of my mind's occupation. A walk on the street, a seat at the table, a conductor on the bus, an artist, a needle, and ink, a friend in fables, and a foot on this rotating rock. Waking from last night's reveries, learning again the use of poetries, I scratch my head and wonder at the desires I find in the depths of my mind. From the core of my being arises a need to be heard, a need to be felt, to be touched, to be seen through the length of my dreams, to be known, accepted as me. An army of me, bearing chains in the front lines and shadows, in the ordinances of those ordained by the beast, because I want to know you, to show you, to embrace your darkest sides and darken my own mind, to quieten a frantic light, and lay still at peace in the silence of the night. Will I feel the power in your eyes? Will I face the music and be unflinching? Will I feel your desire through your unrelenting pursuit of touch? Will I exercise my demons while I enchant that hunger of yours? Will you ever find me as anything more than I am today? I have met great loves. I have had great loves. I have known great loves, and yet I have not been present with great love. The utter joy of communion is not in the making of love, but in that fleeting glance as our minds pass one another, a knowledge of union, a union at the end of knowledge. Together we are separate, standing alone in our corner of infinity, sharing in eternity, across the bridge of our minds, a distance shattered, a time unmeasured, a warping of speed, and behold, we are kinetic beings at the thresholds of reality. I am afraid to pen this page, for fear of disappointing the friendship of poetry, a choice between a dear dance, the ecstasy of sweat, an ephemeral breath, or a wrestle with myself and words for my feelings, not knowing the direction they may take or forms they may shape. You are the elegance of my creation. You are the fantasy of my dreams. A version of me free of a smoker's dream. You will be a king of all moments if at each instance of time's inception you are decisive in in your determination to move. A swiftness of wrist, a softness of step, to a gliding point of focus culminating in a movement. Watch as paths are found for you who know that you are going. Decide to move and a statue is carved out of breathing. Time will strike, but I will continue. A thought may fade, but I will continue. I will continue past the boredom of ideas. I will continue past the repetition of my mind. I will continue to write and mark the lines in which I come to terms with time until time is irrelevant and you do not dominate the relativity of my mind. Until then, I will have nothing more to say beyond the desperation of a hope for calm. A point of serenity when in fact the calm is in the movement of stillness and can never be arrived at, only passed by. This is meditation and the way to movement. This is movement and the way to meditation. A pointless and objectless dancing, a focus without a locus, only a motion about an axis of an axis about a motion about motion, a dancing about dance, a dance about dancing, a song about singing, a singing about song. A meditation about meditation and movement about movement. Words about words and poems about poems. I went to the sages and found them lacking. I searched through the fables and found them misguided. I practiced the warrior, found their way and the freedom of their blade, and yet it was not enough. I still long for your embrace, to know you so deeply that you might come seek me, to find you so keenly carving out the soul of my mind, to move as two held in tandem by the palms of our hands and the motions of our wrists, balancing out this carnal equation of waves, tides and moving feet, like the ocean in and out, push and pull, give and take. An intricate game is our planetary aim, a cosmic dance played out on an atomic scale of worlds colliding to move beyond the force which separates us, to mesh and gel and eviscerate any remnants of self. I want the oblivion of love, to find out for myself the obliteration that poets past entice me with as the joy of writing poetry. Be relentless and take him through his paces. Break his soul and watch him shoot through his limits. There is no time for the sweat to dry. There is no time for the mind to rest. Even stillness is a test. Take his soul and smash his dreams into the dust. They do not matter. What matters is the step in front of him, because the very next step determines the fate of his universe. This is all I have. This, the space between my hands. Now I can extend this space all the way to infinity. Or I can try to condense that space into a phrase, a song, a phase, a dance, a verse, a spur of the moment thing, and give you art. Then what is art but my self-expression, understanding the autonomy of myself to express thyself, thyself become apparent to me here in the space between my hands. Come, let me grasp you and bring you into the world through the glorious dance where words are not needed. The place where words are preceded by the fact that they fail to capture this space between my hands. precipice of absurdity. Every poet encounters the folly of ease words, the folly of trying to confine thought to the bounds of these words, to the space of what is heard, by invoking the time of what is remembered. A poet will try in vain to name himself, to name his poem, and to name his vision, but all he truly has is a reference to after the fact, a label with which to identify this from that, I from you and me from tree. A poem will try in vain to make its poet, to construct his image and manifest his thought, but all it has is the remnants of his spirit, a fleeting idea, a passing moment, a dancing dance danced across the threshold of mind and matter. There are the poets of antiquity. There are the poets of antiquity, history, and their allusions to the illusions of deeper mysteries. There are the poems of genres, categories, and subdivisions to the divisive preferences of the human experience. The Sufi, the mystic, the yogi, and hypocrite, the thinker, the joker, the sage, and playwright, the music, the dance, the combination and poetry, art and thought, muscle and sense, feeling and tolerance, emotion and endurance, life encountered and felt as art, in thought and sense, to muscle, time tolerated by feeling out the energized duration of changing emotions. What then is the speed of space that travels time through the motion of a mind? What then is the speed of time that travels space through the ocean of a mind? Mortality, dancing in the face of existence, reveling in the reverie of eternity, witness to the infinity of no thing in perpetuity, and dangling on the precipice of absurdity, eternally infinite and infinitely eternal, mortally absurd and absurdly mortal, in music, dance, and the combination of poetry. Because I know you all, and will a while uphold the unyoked humor of your idleness. Yet herein will I imitate the sun, who doth permit base contagious clouds to smother up his beauty from the world, that when he please again to be himself, being wanted, he may be more wondered at, by breaking through the foul and ugly mists of vapors that did seem to strangle him. If all the year were playing holidays to sport would be as tedious as to work, but when they seldom come, they wish to come, and nothing pleaseth but rare accidents. So when this loose behavior I throw off, and pay the debt I never promised, by how much better than my word I am, by so much shall I falsify men's hopes. And like bright metal on a sullen ground, my reformation glittering over my fault shall show more goodly and attract more eyes than that which hath no foil to set it off. I'll so offend to make offense a skill, redeeming time when men think least I will. All hail, brave sir, Grave Master, hail! I come to answer thy best pleasure, be it to swim, to dive into the fire, to ride on the curled clouds. Ariel and all his quality. Timore Ferocitas Animus Vita. Ferocitas. Timore Ferocitas Animus Vita. The spirit of life is ferocious with fear. Come on. You got this. Record. Pravaaha-Mainavi-Javanaa Cittanu-Kayanu Passanaam Kriya-Virya-Manu Nirodhano. There we go. Something well down. Take it again. Pravaaha-Mainavi-Javanaa Cittanu-Kayanu Passanaam Kriya-Virya-Manu. Deva Natarajana Kristinam Sadalingam. You're missing a word there. Measured by the excellence of the king in the dance, weaving the eternal sign of that which cannot be named, that of the wind. Measured by the excellence of the king in the dance, measured by what was measured by Deva Natarajana Kristinam Sadasivalingam Mukti Nirodhan Gautamasan Maitriyan Dhammanubhava. Mukti Nirodhan Gautamasan Maitriyan Parakramanam Dhammanubhavaya Namarupam. Arya Arjunam Sammakashanam Parvatinam Jalayanu Vayuvam Agnikai Kalavam. maintain and frame a new prescription. Dreams that contain the description deeds of the cognitive friction, spit in exact diction. And you got distracted. Spit in exact diction. Done. Explorers of our cognitive metaspace, owning our skills and showing our wills, mapping out the conscious terrain, cruising the axonic highway and piloting synaptic flight on a voyage through cerebro while curating neuronic circuitry to navigate this psychic odyssey with mankind's greatest prophecy, a logocentric philosophy with vision to see my death, a mission to see the breath and fuel the locomotive named the Cerebral Express, projecting my retort onto the sensory landscape in a ritualistic escape from a nihilistic bondage on a path to man's estate, taking part with heart as sound as oak. The debt we owe, fire your shots and raise the plateau, engage the domain of this verbal tango, grow the mane and find the zen in the lion's den, for the pen is our friend who lends the wealth to cleanse the wells of life's seven hells. And with the cellular instrument of these oral harmonies to spot the anomalies and curate the right remedies in cathartic melodies of articulate theories that tell good stories and spell out sorceries, casting out a part of me in somatic intricacies, find the traumatic train, enter the lane of honest expression, the martial art of reflexive action. To habits, so when you want it, it is there. When you want to move, you are moving, and when you are moving, you are determined to move. Think, and then don't think. Feel, free your ambitious mind and learn the art of dying in the art of rhyme. For to die is to be liberated from it. So fight to win, not to not lose. Struggle towards your death, because if not, you suffer towards it. And where's the fun in that? The line was, so put your shoes on, let's run track. I mean, yeah, put your shoes on, let's run track. But if you want to know the track, there's nothing like it. Rustling in the wind, bodies entwined as two, but moving in one motion. Let your spirit soar like a drop of water bursting into existence, launch from the nozzle of a fountain to soar and fly until gravity calls again, and we fall to kiss the earth in time, just to see her rise. O daughter of the night, shine darkness in my mind. The would-be messenger of my rhyme. I walk into an empty bar and order a beer. The few old men around look up in wonder. A young lad scraggly looking here at midday drinking beer. What's your living? One of them asks. A poet, I say. You make any dough stitching words? They ask. Not a cent, I say. Then why? They ask, and I reply, because my purpose in life is to sit here and drink beer, maybe share a tale or two, or a few words about you, then on to my grave beyond my time. What sort of life is that? They ask, and I reply, what sort of life is that? They ask, and I reply, is it any worse than sitting here growing old, reading the papers and drinking beer, maybe still a tale or two and many poems lost in days of time on the crack of a dime for a pint about noon? I build with my hands, walk these streets, carry my feet, sit on my heels and watch the traffic. Busy people living busy lives, sometimes wishing that I was busy too, wearing a nice suit and a well-chosen tie, with a simple leather watch and shiny leather shoes. But then, I would be here, drinking beer with you. Today in the morning, I sat by my window and noticed a flash of yellow, a fluttering butterfly dancing about the fresh spring leaves, reminding me of a time I puffed my distractions away from my distracted mind. Spring in the tropics come as many times as there are trees at different weeks, on different days, each tree and each leaf on its own clock. I will grow, watching the butterflies dance about the leaves, confounded by how they take form amidst these poems. You arrive like a sleight of hand magician and bring shape into the art of my dreams. Eminent men and women of letters gave you life on the precipice of their phrase, yet still here you are once again in my dreams, the imminence of life emanating from the gaze of my eyes, brimming from the infinite. You inspire the vibrations of my energy. You are the spirit in my algebra. You are the tool of many poets. You are the trap for misleading references. You are not a you, nor are you a personification of all that is and all that was not. You are simply a poetic device for me to inspire my dreams of all that I desire and all that I inspire. You could be the love of my life. You could be the voice behind my lines. You could be the reflection of life in my mind, my feeling of aliveness, my spirit that populates the ideation of my consciousness. In every instance of consciousness, tapping into the waves of life, I am human and you are my mind. You walk like a silent shadow, drifting through time and the spirits of life. You occasion the works of art that have riddled history, and yet you are the work of art that has made me history. A word become flesh, a thought taken form, an idea floating in my brain. You walk beside me like a whispering wind, teasing me with illusions of perfection, instinct. You are the intuition of my dreams, the grand master craftsman of my reality, orienting me towards an actuality that will never be a chasing, a movement, a moving moment, just out of reach. The weight was deafening. Silence between father and son, so much unsaid. Both testing the air. Are we here? Can we be? Panic. Begotten from a single question. What's up? I ran away. I couldn't face the small talk. I needed a cigarette. The innocence in his eyes brought tears to mine. Oh, one day, Father, I will meet your mind. For time is my destiny. distance, a lawing flock of hair that grows and withers, furls and curls streaming down the passage of time, testing my will, a reminder of comfort and maintenance. Time is my distance, an old symbol of polished rock and sculpted men, a carved parable lusting for the future. It was time that projected the allure of love onto space. It was movement in tandem to loving, the joy of playing that brought about a playful notion to the motion of love. Untethered by the possession of an obsession for love, we spoke of words and thoughts, life and battles, loves and struggles, art and poems, sounds and harmony. We tried it all, and yet we are tied to our bodies, for without our flesh there is no agent for love. For without flesh there is no life for thought. For without flesh there is no meeting of minds behind eyes. For without flesh we are left with nothing more than nothing. Thus, time is my distance, and love is a mystery. It comes and goes like moon phases, changing the course of history. Today I weep. For no reason I weep. Because I have no reason. Overwhelmed am I, contained within the soliloquy of my mind. Shall I wait for the love of my love, or wander the streets desolate and decadent? I love my friends, and yet I can't face them without myself. I want love to find me behind the veil that seems to be me. Or is this my hope for a salvation that never comes? It breaks my heart, and I know it does, and yet I choose this way over that way of a detached sage, for this way may break my heart. But from the remains of shattered pieces and broken organs, sparkles of the inkling of poetry, and if not for poetry, life would be meager in its bounty for having lived. She showed me the greatest kindness, with an eternal sincerity behind her manner and her words. She embraced my moral cowardice, kissed me on the eyes, and told me that I was beautiful. But we were faced with time and our own lives, realities and responsibilities, overwhelmed by the intensity of my desire to walk through the gates of existence, told me to cultivate what is kind and poetic in me for another time. And like a wounded animal, cornered and dangerous, an energy grew within and burst forth with the force of a thundering typhoon, attacking all that was beautiful and kind in her, accusing her of manipulation and seduction, converting the fierceness of our passions, the loving gentility we shared that night, into a malice masked in pain and pity, outpouring with a vengeance beyond reproach. Towards an innocence so pure, it killed me to kill her soul. I broke her heart and shattered mine, and left me scarred and crippled. Replicate the best of me pain while improving on the worst of me. I wonder to myself, are you onto a discovery that I long since gave up on? In my haste for power, did I miss the exuberance and intensity with which you play the game? Or have I simply forgotten the young man's game? Have I simply forgotten the young man's dream? It seems like you play with the maximal seriousness and take nothing for granted. You love and pain, complain and explain and exclaim. But yet you seem to dance through everything unscathed. How is it you have such power and yet are turbulent in this one aspect of life? You display the calmness you seek and yet you seek. I hope you find it, or better yet, find that you don't need it. Because when you do, life will write the grandest of poems without you. And that, my friend, is the most beautiful to behold. That, my friend, is the wisdom you think I possess. The knowing that the greatest of arts are without you. Now a giant projection of the firmament in his mind, where men before him voyage the lands and seas in search for this answer. He now sits ever conscious of the silent moon song echoing behind him. Yue sings into the night, a haunting whisper that life for humanity is nothing more than a moon dance about the axis of time. Echoes of a distance past sing, ring in his ears like a sonorous bell. All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his act being a reminder that a boy in his mind has dreams of his actions, an actor playing many roles in his chase of her moon dance. An actor playing many roles in his chase of the moon dance. Howling lupine tunes. I will kill you. Starve you to death. I have nothing but hatred for you. There was time when the smell of your burning flesh was music to my ears. Even during the affair, I knew this to be misery, and then disaster struck. Your hold on me was apparent because I could not be free. I couldn't pull myself away from you. I ran looking for ways to freedom outside myself. You taught me about life and the mind, but now it's time to die. Show me the happy smoker. He does not exist. He never has. He never could. It is time. What am I waiting for? Seize it now. The time is gone past the clock that ticks back closer to me. The time is gone for the morning rise of the light that breaks the day. The time is gone beyond the words that counts the second. The time is gone and is nowhere to be found. For it is time, and the time is now. The time is now for the writing of dreams that break down the shackles of a self unbound. The time is now for the running of sweat dripping down the trickles of a tiring mind. The time is now for the dance of melodic harmonies and frequencies, interlocking mysteries, life energy, living life through synergy. It is time for words empty of meaning unless imbued with the force of a will that endures past time and launches out the gate like a being possessed. It is time for me, for a legend leagues cross to get taught. It is time. It is time for me to move past this endless chase of a liberty that will not be unless I will liberty for me. It is time for a legend of leagues crossed to get taught, to neuron, to finger, typing words from eons of minds old, walking deserts and savannas, forests and colossal mountains. It is time for me to move past this endless chase of a liberty that will not be unless I will liberty for me. It is time to live my life regardless of the clouds in my doubt, regardless of the shadows in my stride, regardless of the shame in my mind or the weight of my ambitions. You cannot hinder my freedom unless I allow you to. You cannot deter my resolve unless I allow you to. You cannot destroy the storm that is coming for you without first facing the thunder that is I. For I will strike lightning on my fears and measure the echo of my tears. I will bring damnation to the changing of my gears and salvation to the voices of my peers. My very existence will bring shivers to your greed. My very existence will bring doubt to your creed. Well, how about that? When there's nothing to do? There is always poetry. I will light a fire on the tempest of my desires and build poems on the backs of my reveries. On the backs of my fantasies, on the bridge of my ecstasies, and from the dance of my reveries. For like the raging of rivers, I will shape this land and carve a path to the ocean. Like the clashing of greens, I will grow blades of grass and drip with morning dew. Like the howling of winds, I will sing a tune of heartwarming blues and earth-shattering hues. Like the silence of the night, I will merge with the darkness and go the distance. For it is time, and the time is now. For I have struck lightning on my fears and measured the echo of my tears. And I will light a fire on the tempest of my desires and build poems on the back of my reveries. I will dance my fantasies and speak bridges across the words of my ecstasy. For I will rain thunder on the tempest. For who sins the most? The tempter or the tempted? And if thou callest me a dog, well then beware my fangs. Don't let this poem end. Surrender the outcome. Watch as time and space bend. I am making it through. I am free. Get back to me. This is what I want to do. This makes life worthwhile. The most important work I will ever do in my life begins with a simple movement. Begins with a simple moment. An easy step followed by another, navigating the delusions that saboteur my life. It's not about hopes and dreams, it's not about praise and schemes, it's about waking up every day and being able to go soundly to sleep. Life is fine. My mind is fine. I'm writing because this is all there is to do. I'm writing so that I can continue to write, to unearth something new that echoes through distant memories of a familiar place I've been before, because I've been here before. I've always been here before. Life has been here before, and I get to experience life as new in every moment, that I am present to witness every movement. I don't write poems, I find them as I write. When I write, life will now be what happens in between streaks of writing. Notes to self, note to the future. Don't think, just write. Don't consider, just do. Send the messages, surrender the outcome. There's no need to contemplate about whether I'm ready to do or waiting for that magical nakata which never comes. That nakata is the momentum in the motion, no longer a need to check every decision to action with a puff of nicotine. It's less to do with age and more with sense of direction. Degree versus having fun versus making connections that last lifetime versus going out and making time for travel. The amount of times I've thought about knocking on someone's door, looking for company, and haven't, because waiting to feel ready and more settled in myself. It starts now and will always be now. I had enthusiasm for life while smoking in the privacy of my mind. It was a lonely, bleak world. It may still be lonely, but it's not so bleak. Keep vigilant. I have no desire to suffocate myself anymore, not even for momentary relief. Relief can be found elsewhere, in my mind, in my breath, in my time and my movement. It's surprising that even schoolwork is engaging once begun. It's the once begun that's the initial problem. So what have I done? What have I done, a simple-minded man? I'm wondering. The volumes is different now as it plays. Slightly. Always. You get distracted. It comes back. What have I done? What have I done, a simple-minded man, when I stormed the gates of history and spread her legs for the life of me? What have I done, a simple-minded man, when I killed my brother for his mystery and claimed it in the name of my chivalry? What have I done, a simple-minded man, when I sat down to think of my life and write it down with the words of my ancestors? What am I doing, a hollow-minded man, walking around with the crimes of my past and the knowledge of my injustices? What am I doing, a hollow-minded man, following the footsteps of praiseworthy men who, like me, walked around their thoughts with crimes of our past? Humanity is disappointing, but in humanity there is potential, not for heroes and favors, but for legendary agents of change who make their stand, one act of random kindness at a time, one helpful phrase at a time, one gentle look in their eyes. What am I doing? A hollow-minded man, the villain am I, having caused destruction and bloodshed. The hero am I, having caused destruction and bloodshed. The joker am I, having caused confusion and delusion. The sage am I, having caused confusion and delusion. A simple man am I, littering the pages of history with tales of my whimsy. A descendant of DNA, a hunter honing his skill for the simple act of quelling his hunger and the hunger of his tribe. An artist polishing his instinct for the simple act of inspiring his poetry and capturing the evolution of beauty. Because who's gonna eat tonight? Earn your fucking meals, man. Why print, you ask? Because when the man in the glass looks back at time, I feel the weight of my mind, conscious of my eyes searching my face for a meaning beyond the vagrant stare of fleeting thoughts, fluttering behind those eyes. Because ever so often there is a gleam to be found when I looked out my window at the rising sun and hear the birds sing and see the leaves dance glowing in green. Because ever so often there are words that seem to me more real than the fingers which type them out on a screen, or the pen that scratches paper and leaves a trail of ink that are legible scribbles and yet are only indicative of a madman who decides to spend his time scrawling over words on a page in an attempt to arrest his yearning to live by giving life to the longing of his mind. Why write, I ask? Because one day I carved thought and found words of poetry in their place. Because one day I tried to write out an idea, a feeling, an emotion out of nothing more than the images of their inspiration, only to find out that to write brought forth more inspiration. Because I am distracted by my urge to move and distracted by my time that passes me by. Because humanity has thought, and I have thought, and history has thought, and hunters have thought, because mothers have thought, because fathers had hopes, because brothers have dreams and sisters are their dreams, because life as we know it cannot be any other way than the vibrations of raindrops stampeding down the tiles of my roof, because poetry drops when a mind is silent, because serenity stops when a mind is unbound through creative action, because aesthetics are a fundamental flaw in the valuation of movement. Because an idea said simply is worth more than an idea said beautifully. Because beauty is an idea said simply, and imagery is a magician's invocation of mystery. Because colors, sounds, and dancing things write their own poems in a language abstract and distant. Because songs of the heart are best sung through words of the mind. Through words of a mind putting words to an indecipherable urge to explore a train of thought in attempts of finding a conclusory remark on a subject so vast the blank space between these words calculate the limits of infinity. Because I am not a man of the people, but a person among people, as we travel on in our metal ways, following the odd hobgoblins of our minds, tuned in apathy for fantasies and operancy. Can I be loving? Can I be vengeful? Can I fill these pages with tears of sorrow and record my ascent into madness? Can I fill these pages with smiles and dreams and laughter and jokes while still embarking on my quest of finding solace in my descent into the personal. To find a poem that is true of my passion. I want to write a different kind of poem. I want to write about the fisherman and the farmer, the accountant and the banker, the lawyer and the doctor, the statesman and stateswomen, the beggar on the street or the crow that steals his food. I want to write about the people I see and the animals I meet, the dogs on the road, their quizzical gaze, the rats in the drain and their scurrying feet, the cockroach in my sink and the birds in my trees. I want to write of dazzling things and jaw-dropping scenes, but until they appear before my mind undistracted by my minding, I can only write in hopes of inspiring their poems one day in the future through the I want to write of dazzling things and jaw-dropping scenes, but until they appear before my mind undistracted by my minding, I can only write in hopes of inspiring their poems one day in the future through the idiosyncrasies of my language and through the momentum of my past. Women. She gets catcalled and told off. She is headstrong and yet dead wrong, and he loves her, but he abuses her. He thinks it's his right to rape her, when really he's just horny, insecure, prick, with an inferiority complex. But shit, man, the danger to her, he'd pounce and rip her clothes off when she asks for it. He'd bruise and choke her out when she fights for it. He is ashamed to admit that all he has to offer is his sperm and the quality of his thought. For life is born not of man, but from the womb, the darkness of a tomb, giving life to this art. Humanity is a farce. Humanity is a work of art. Humanity is a cage, and he is shackled to her and chained to a lifetime of impressing her affections. But he cannot stand her rejection of his efforts. In his rebellions to his instinct, he becomes abusive and demands her attention and servitude. He bolsters himself and shames her name, the mother of his children and the bane of his existence. Running from himself, he has nowhere to go. So he shoots up school or fucks the secretary, hires her legs and blows her promotion. He's blind, he's a blind man, you see, learning to navigate the torrent of his emotion and his responsibility for her motion. Saying shotgun to the head, better to just be dead. The world is in shambles, the moon is bleeding, and she's there complaining about the traffic. It's too much for any one man to bear. It's way more than she considers fair. Clits, tits, and a monthly regiment, dicks, shits, and a horribly trained dog, kiss lips or bash in her nose, poetry and music or play at Normandy. Nature plays a cruel game for idiots who survive on the backs of stronger men, for brutes who never learn to reason, for her mood that changes by the season, for her boon that he be the stuff of legend. How can any man live up to that? Few ever do. The rest are left battered and bruised, stomped and chewed, resentful and menacing, innocently waiting or aggressive in their taking. All she can do is lament over the men lost in her religion. She has no idea what she wants, but she knows what she needs. She has no idea what he needs, but she knows what he wants. Does she though? Does she know why he becomes an ascetic, buys a nice watch, goes to war, starts a revolution, or charts the stars? Does she know any of this? Does she even bother to know? While he toils endlessly to find a meaning to his existence beyond her allure, or tries desperately to compete for her intimacy in a game that she referees. What is a man to do but take her in his dreams and master the gentle and strong fist, goken and juken, or risk becoming a genuine twist? a sick fanatic, and slave to her sex, a rampaging rapist, or a nut-job CEO, a damaging feminist, or a heartfelt elemist? What are we going to do about the next generation of our species? What is her philosophy? Will she ever add it to our epistemology? She is born with the ability to be entirely present in her feeling, but what of her thought? And what of the study of her instinct? We need more Levertovs. We have enough Eliots who shake their spears in acts of verbal masturbations and erect dictions. But where is her theory of metaphysics? Is it different to a man's? Can it be independent of his metaphysics? Can we agree on a combined epistemology? Where are Artemis and Athena? Venus has been playing socks with man for too long. It's high time for women to rise up and show us her evolution. Capitalism, democracy, and the progression of civilization did not happen in a vacuum of testosterone. Venus enticed Hephaestus to build her a house for security, and she fucked Ares for her pleasure. And so, humanity got stuck with greedy tyrants and rejected craftsmen. Too bad. She wasn't interested in the intellectual pleasures of the sages of archery, who were loved by Sophia regardless of sex and gender, but simply for the joy of pursuit, for the carnality of pleasure, and for the unconditioned love or boundless kindness. It is possible. It just happens to be rare. The love of Sophie is rare. As Denise once put it, there isn't enough incentive for peace. Tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sorrow and fury, signifying nothing. When Macbeth declared such as his lament to his brood for his lady's lust and thirst for power in her man, what was her true response? Not Will's assumption of her response, but her own articulation. I would like to hear what a Lady Macbeth would have to say if ever a woman decided to write her deepest desires into a character of truth. Or is Edward and Jacob the best we can do? I'm tired of men trying to pursue. I'm tired of men trying to pass out the coded language of women. Why can't she give it to him straight and true without embarrassment and shame? For who truly shames a woman? Do the men follow suit of the example set by other and older women? Or do the women, like cattle, prefer to be led by idiots who shepherd the flock? I'm so confused. Darling, help me understand so that we may make a stand. Boys just want to play. Do girls just want to have fun too? Truly? It doesn't seem to be the case. Or is her fun in testing men and their race for her sex? Let's learn to play the fucking game. Or maybe Helen put it best. Our remedies oft in ourselves do lie, which we ascribe to heaven. The fated sky gives us free scope, only doth backward pull our slow designs when we ourselves are dull. What power is it which mounts my love so high, that makes me see and cannot feed mine eye? The mightiest space in fortune and nature brings to join like the likes, and kisses like native things impossible be strange attempts to those that weigh their pains in sense and do suppose what had been cannot be. Whoever strove to show her merit that did miss her love. On the edge, balanced, what is the work of a poet? A role to play, a direction, a predisposition for words, time, and whatever comes to mind? Or is it to find the music that lives in the soul of a page, to divine the night skies, the stars and storm clouds, flashing lightning, booming a thunder like the way a sunrise hits me, or that first sip of coffee in the morning, to put down in words what cannot be said, that which can only be felt, line by line, reading braille like a blind man, wandering the darkness that is the presence of time, racing into a future that never arrives, like the moon amidst the clouds and dancing shadows, creating phantoms of light. The rest is not our business. For us, there is only the trying, a balancing act at the still point between a moment felt and a moment divined. So, is that the work of a poet? To be defined by the order of lines, fishing for a poem that might make a poet, or a poet that was found by a poem? Time moves forward and the future never arrives. Maybe that is what makes poetry sublime. Coffee. Lost when poets and poems implode, unraveling the boundaries of reality where consciousness cannot be conscious of itself being conscious, because at some point the magic has to define itself, making magic, and then reality implodes, revealing the sublime. What is the work of a writer? Sifting through madness, to grow a tree on a boat, down a river, drifting on towards the ocean, facing currents, tumultuous turns, changing scenery, navigating the land, past the cities, villages, man-made settlements, reaping fruit, nourishment, and life from the mountain springs, rushing down as gravity takes hold, past pristine, untouched wilderness, untamed and brimming, explosive vitalities guarded by towering kumbuks. What is the work of a writer? Sifting through madness to grow on a tree on a boat down a river, drifting on towards the ocean, facing currents, tumultuous turns, changing scenery, navigating the land, past the cities, villages, man-made settlements, reaping fruit, nourishment, and life from the mountain springs, rushing down as gravity takes hold, past pristine, untouched wilderness, untamed and brimming, explosive vitalities guarded by towering kumbuks, reaping fruit, nourishment, and life from the mountain springs, rushing down as gravity takes hold. Through it all, there is a lonely boat, atop which sits a tree. I don't know what the tree is doing there, nor what journey the boat is on, but there is the traveling, and there is the growing, two conjoined, for one cannot be without the other. So what is the work of a writer? To travel, to grow, to row a boat and let it drift seamlessly, risking the wreckage but braving through until it reaches a destination not of space but one of time. Only to say that where we started from is not where we ended. We land in space but in a different time. Is that what makes all the difference? That is the only difference. The rest is in the movement. To what purpose? Than to disturb the stillness with drops of rain forming fractals in a puddle, or was it a river, maybe the ocean? Most likely though, its parched land, a desert so dry, not even words come by the cooling springs of a writer's mind. Bound in time to carve space and bear witness to the products of human life. Right now I want to play. I can find life later. Right now I want to be a beast and tame the human later. Right now I want to swim in the deepest seas and grind till infinity becomes a space between us. Right now I want to gaze into your eyes and compose this poem with you and your time. A poetry so ancient it cannot be placed in words. A poetry so ancient the smell of sweat like the taste of your lips brings out the animal in me. Calm and strong, an ethereal storm, moving, thunder, rumbling and kiss. Lightning in motion. Right now I want you. Right now I want to know you before we had language, so that I might invent words to mark the grooves of your flesh, but I measure the echoes of your breath. Breathe with me tonight, because love can wait, but this poetry cannot. Breathe with me tonight, because love is patient, but infinity is restless. Breathe with me tonight, because love is a name given to a movement in motion. Breathe with me tonight, because this, my dear, is the eternal dance of the cosmos in creation. Breathe with me tonight, because the days are long and life is found in the breath of a song. For I am the mouthpiece for the spirit of this poetry, and for the soul in this poem, for each verse is a life on its own, and every stanza a breath in its own. All poets and poems of poetry eventually find their end at nirvana, lights out and curtains closed, thought at the end of its thinking until another poem is born, to take its verbal place at the point of man and man. Manu and his words, apes and their language, Radha and her mythology, confusing man and his odyssey, Elohim and his origins, Eliot and his quartets, and his wasteland and his grand plan, all finding home in the minds of these hollow men. I've been trying to use words to make you feel comfortable enough to share in your mind, to share in my mind, but I'm failing miserably. My mind is like scattered branches and leaves in an intricate lattice of shade, trees and birdsong. Every now and again I have moments of lucidity and clarity, like the times the sunshine rays and just the right angle to bend the light and create a still and quiet space for the thought between perception and reflection, action and reaction, inspiration broken by emotion, a mind clouded by memory or grounded by it, a mind surrounded by serenity or enveloped in it. Why is it so difficult to synchronize our times and our minds to commune on occasion as we wander off to other times alone and whole? Am I mad? Am I woman? Am I not simple awareness, life aware of itself here on a page? I cast words and spell men into being, planting seeds for crops and cultures for the satisfaction of human, as incentives for the gratification of themselves from the manifestations of its interactions. But I am bound by the limitations of my biological inhabitants. I am compelled by necessity to live and think through the lenses and desires that permeate my thoughts. I want to see me through you. I want to see you for you. Be separate and one with the same meditation. Combine until your thoughts slow grind with mine. Combine until your thoughts slow grind with mine. Because this is poetry. Because this is a poetic meditation. To be unmoving and yet moved. To be moving and also still. To feel action through inaction. To be life unfettered by strife. To run free and go see. Go beyond the beyond. To where there is no conception. To where there is only go. To where the only instinct is go. To where instinct, intuition is the only that of go. Go. To arrive from that which is not. Having gone from a time unaccounted for to a place unprecedented. As having been rendered by an act of thought. The still point from which every motion begins, and the arresting point for every subsequent break, beat in the motion of new motions, back again from the still point of the turning world. There are the dances, and every poet encounters the folly of these words. The folly of trying to confine thought to the bounds of these words, to the space of what is heard, to invoke the time of what is remembered. A poet will try in vain to name himself, to name his poems, and to name his vision, but all he truly has is a reference to after the fact. A label with which to identify this from that, I from you, me from tree. A poem will try in vain to make its poet, to construct his image and manifest his thought, but all it truly has is the remnants of his spirit. A fleeting idea, a passing moment, a dancing dance across the threshold of mind and matter. There are the poets of antiquity, history, and their allusions to the illusions of deeper mysteries. There are the poems of genres, categories, subdivisions, the divisive preferences of the human experience. The Sufi, the mystic, the yogi and hypocrite, the thinker, the joker, the sage and playwright, the music, the dance, the combination, and the poem. Art and thought, muscle and sense, feeling and tolerance, emotion and endurance, life encountered and felt as art in thought and sense, to muscle, time tolerated by feeling out the energized duration of changing emotions. What then is the speed of space that travels time through a motion of a mind? Infinitely running through eternity, meeting absurdity in the face of mortality, in the face of absurdity, dangling on the precipice of mortality, in the face of mortality, dangling on the precipice of absurdity, running infinity through eternity. The forest is dark, and I want poems that write poets. I want words that write poems into the mountain range on the horizon, a silver lining written by the timing of an occasion to see light bursting forth in a dazzle of racing shadows, dawn awakening hues of the forest, a valley facing east for the sun rising overhead, contrasting shades of green, red and brown, and the colors spilled out, bursting at the seams of this portrait. A flaming giant, adding contrast to the colors of the forest. Can I imagine this scene having not seen? Can I hear the echoes having not been? The forest is where the music is. We simply exist to bring it back. To bring back the music. To reclaim the present. And to bring dark back to the city. We have lightened and become frightened of darkness, forgetting that we were raised by it, molded by it. Perpetual darkness is home for blind men with clear sight, blind men walking beside other blind men too, with too much light. An epoch of voyagers who journey into the darkness and bring back epic salvages for minds lost chasing the light. Words of poetry hold responsibility for the sanity in artistry and write sentence in defense for the darkness of beauty. In defense for the darkness in beauty, for the darkness as beauty, for the darkness is beauty. Writing about the darkness in beauty, writing the darkness as beauty, writing that darkness is beauty. For without it, we would not be, and because of it, we just may be. We may express life, because darkness lets life be. Light can be kind and violent. Darkness, however, is always still, quiet, at peace, in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Allahi Shanti Om. To the countless, the nameless, and the unarmed, the unnamed, the unaimed, the unclaimed, noun, verb, phrase, thoughts from humanity that inspired me, thought in mediums of music, art, athletes, lives, biographies, histories, authorities, poetries, fictions, and insights that littered pages of consciousness, turning memories to recorded capsules of time lived in real, true time. Wisdom sought, wisdom garnered, wisdom applied, and the knowledge to share their source, cause, and effects of our dependent originations into being of conscious organisms taught by ordination. Here we are. There we have been. Then we were. And now we are going to a future that is past, to a present that is moving, and a movement that is still. And still at the turning point of this dancing world, a locus for focus, hocus, and pocus told us thought is here, there, nowhere, everywhere, that now deems moments of movement, because consciousness is consciousness of movement, and consciousness, as far as we are concerned, is a wholly human trait. Where intentions, actions, and adaptations intersect, intercede, and intercept collapsing waves in probabilities of cosmos in motion, manifest as transfigured transformations of energy in cognition. Thus ends and begins the genetic inventions of discovered abstraction from resolute traction, carving language from thought, weaving thought from abstraction, forged into shape and given form through movement. Partition and fractions. Partition the fractions, spiral the fractals, desolate, warping, vortex the fractions, and blissful the joys of linguistic executions, tantamount to tomfoolery's riddle of pandemonium. Without the esoteric jargons of symbols, myths, and omens that transcend the transference of astral desires to escape the anatomies of broken bodies and open brains that remember the name. For mystics, those mythic misfits transcend by trance and abdication, while sages, those salvage, surging storm forces, radiating sound, sentient sentences remain denoted, devoted, and dedicated to their souls, spines, thoughts, and times. For a communion with communities of skillfully compromised passions and ethically eclectic energy armored egoisms. For this will be the greatest showing that humanity is yet to encounter. That primordial mythical team of perfected ethos. Because we are coming. Sign steadily, sincere in here. The dance that was danced with the song was not heard of incarnations distracted from distraction by distraction in decadence. I was afraid to demand your love in a bold statement of leaping into your embrace, of seeming sleazy for doing so. That day you kissed me by the door. Only now I see the fool in me for thinking that to love you so was sleazy. Love is carnal and passion. Life is kind in your eyes and gentle in your caring, as it sometimes is in mine. And therein lies the beauty in our eyes, the beauty of the infinity in you and I dancing about poetry. She had me straddled, cloth on cloth as her hips swayed, shorts and sarong as her hips stayed. She traced along the ridges of my abdomen, placing both hands on my chest, and snake-like she bent low with palms gliding along my neck to cradle my face in her hands. Lacing her finger through my hair, she looked at me with a piercing glare, and time stilled. And then, in the heat of everything, she placed the lightest kiss on each of my eyes. A tender touch so profound, my mind obliterated into eternity and danced around infinity. How she kissed my eyes, so overwhelmingly beautiful, surreal to a point beyond imagination. You are loved. You are strong. You are safe. Awareness to the point of ultra-alert tinglings, sensations, not of pleasure. But electric, magic, loving sorcery of intimacy and boundaries beyond boundaries, the subtlest touch of skin on skin, and in those riveting moments, a tender touch can be a beautifully phenomenal thought. To have imprinted in one's memory and flashed in a sketch of my brain. A cherished reality. Beheld in a moment of no moments across time, sharing with me her mastery of mortality. How would it have been if if I had seen then what I am seeing now. For I see now, and I mourn the loss of an imaginary life, remembering the times a natural mystic blew through the air to be heard by the dance as the song was danced and dancing the music. Poetry I was not then, caught between my possession and the call to her obsession as she whispered, "It's time for new dreams." The alto of her voice gently sweet, with fingers combing to hold secure my hair. She kissed me softly with cheeky smirk and tenderly grazed my cheeks, playfully inviting me to chase her lips. What mastery of her mortality! What mastery of her mortality she displayed as she tells me to go again. Oh, she sang my name. Again she gasped as my tongue danced. Again she gasped as I read to her poetry, sitting on her linoleum floor, skins apart, her desires for the spirit in my flow apparent. Would she help find that spirit in my flow? Or am I myself alone in that? I was spellbound in the mad rush of love surging through me, intoxicating pheromones fueling desires and pleasures, but none of that really compares to the attention she gave me, showing such fascination towards me. How could this be? She broke through a quivering shell, cracked life open and smashed me into a million pieces of you and I through movements of time, wrapping me in flesh until I embody here to be flesh present with you, in a union of two together, bound by the enthusiasm of another's embrace, bound by another embrace as sweat lubricates and skin touch. Enthusiasm ensues, for poets have no shame, though poems may shame their names. Poets need no shame to write what is hard to admit, painful to submit to these gravestones in sheets of paper, laid down in a graveyard of dying memories as I relive the stroke of her touch, the lightness of her caress. "You are beautiful," she said. "You are phenomena," I replied. We hurl and storm like colliding hurricanes, gripping the rubs of our flesh and binding limbs in the tangle of our skin. Two frequencies meeting in harmony of breathing symphonies and sweaty melodies. Oh, the fucking rush! Simply vibing through the long night. We should have cuddled, but I was thermonuclear and ready to pop, and couldn't bear the thought of finishing for sleep too soon. Only a handful of hours from sunrise. How could it end like this? I woke lofty and softly, full of energy, a brilliance in feeling similar to that night she kissed me by the door. Like, "Don't go, there's no tomorrow." But she sent me on my way as I insisted that she take me and tell me to stay or let me leave. As I was hesitant to leap into her arms and revel in her love, so I walked away. But she wanted space, and I went crazy, digitally texting and pleading instead of penning this scratch journal of poetry. I resorted to abusing my phone, to abuse my thought about her, not in art but lost from it, and I went ballistic. Months by, calmly having mediated with her over a meal, we had moved on. Then one fatal day, she walked into the cafe and read me poetry, and for the life of me I was back again, unable to control the madness. I spilt a drop of golden sun leaking from an open wound and shattered. Simply ruined the tranquility of her poetry. And to my horror, I saw the pain in her eyes and the shell-shocked sadness caused by that of my malevolence. In phrasing and asking, however sincere my feeling or troubling my day had been, however troubling my day had been, It was inexcusable what I did, to have disrupted the delicate brewing of connection, stewing between 2 cups of tea in the company of poetry and in the company of beauty, of being beautiful in one another's eyes. My inner romantic could not hold back my Athena instinct, and so I took beauty and smashed her right in the face, and tears to both our eyes, for his beauty too was smashed before our eyes. Love, please accept this poetry while I live out my apology. Hawk. Sifu Hawk. I know you don't like predators, but that red-tailed hawk, Tobias, animorphs, confusing metaphors and the allegory of animorphs, chronicling the nonsense of the essence in transience. Thank you, my love, for showing me the way. Thank you, my love, for breathing life into my deteriorating soul. Thank you, my love, for the kindness of your touch. Thank you, my love, for filling me with strength to carry forward. You gave me a lesson far deeper than love. You gave me a lesson far beyond the thresholds of my mind. You gave me a sense of freedom and beauty and invigoration, the kind felt by lovers who brave their existence to find the memory of themselves further away than they remember. You said goodbye and woke me from a dream. You said no more, and I learned more and more from our time and conversation. As the years go by, our flesh drops in comparison to the ocean of our minds. While we danced through the night and moved in poetries and dreams and seemingly insignificant things, life can be mysterious, see? But you shared with me the essence of your being. And like all mortal things, we can never know alone if that is the extent of our seeming to be. The urgency in our kiss imprinted your vitality on me, but the soul in your words inspired your poetry in me. So thank you, my love, for inspiring the best and worst in me. I learned the limits of infinity on a journey towards the movement of poetry. My heart is afraid to live. My heart is afraid to live, unabashed, unrestrained, to lay its gamble on the fates of chance for an anguish at the choice I might make. Off in the distant future of the next moment sprung forth as I arrive at the future that is my present. I am unresolved, undetermined, cowardly in my making. I can't work it out, no matter the foresight, no matter the consequence, deliberation, reason, fortitude to live free and take my chances with the wilderness of my expression, to burst into tears and take my chances, to punch the wall and take my chances, to calm the fuck down and take my chances, to evaluate and consider that no matter the state, calm, turbulent, relaxed, frustrated, the pain of regret, the ache of despair quakes in me the need for a distraction through a protracted abstraction for a future time that I will be so inclined to be brave and live on the verge of tears for the restlessness that fuels my chase for oblivion. See, you arrive, and the feeling is clear. Thus passion springs forth, that the way forward is your choice, to choose and choose again, to live through the climax of an epiphany, and follow through with bearing the anticipation for boredom, to move forward to your values and businesses without the incessant inner deliberation for more oblivion, that no matter what, that puff is my undoing, my unmaking. Because even when there is no need, as I've skipped through with the supply, the poems are being written and worked through, being okay with leaving it at that, going for rest and sleep and winding down at its end to leave the rest behind, flush it down, whatever the fear, and become the man who walked away. Like all the chances, it appears again, and I have a choice that I refuse, and never again in the practice of sobriety can I experience that choice through a forcible quit, and so I relapse in despair of not experiencing that man that walked away. Because it only works when there is no plan to quit. Arising for the grievance of me, gleamed poetry, and then when you wait, you are fucked. Like every time to consider another puff, which is directly, intentionally and purposefully contradicts the arrival of epiphanetic resolution and sets in motion the dissonance of when again will I so move towards the direction of courage. That's always the problem. She's like, slow it down, and he's like, no, I don't want to fucking slow down. Unfaced, unnamed, the nameless mercurial spirit of quicksilver, walking the plains of an ever-shifting form of melting expressions, making up the mask of solitude from which the perpetuated gallery of sensory reconstruction looms behind the iris ocular reflection of light, and beyond the vibrations of his ears that string together the frequencies of sight and sound to form the tactile image of the universe. Witnessed today, as before, by curious beings, the incarnation of this stranger, for this stranger stands as the first and last, forevermore ape that leapt and cried, I am here to experience you, the object of my perception, categorically defying impulses along the periphery of my nervous system, impaled by shots of wind and rain and fire, to shock of thunder preceding the lightning strike. The stranger walks this rock, draped in adornment of austerity, with memories of his bloodshed past, and fast wrapped in tales of song sung during his drum-woven fast. For even yesterday is past, and so is a millennia ago. We have not changed, for he has not changed. He walks this earth in search of satiation, to the eternal longing of momentary excitement, for he learned as the hunt is long and short, but still one moment from start to finish. And there is always another hunt, if not for him, but for another version of him, born again in the memories of what's gone on before, the new and the old stranger, both one and the same, wearing masks of lives, live down the line in stranger spans of time, merging into the other of what is the difference between one life and another, but spatial, in the illusion of time. Temporality perceived as a function of memory. The python laying in wait for a day to strike from beneath the water, and the unknowing gazelle breaking the surface for a drink with its tongue, knows not how long a wait, but just waits. We feel time passing because we can remember that time has passed. For at the time of my becoming, it seemed to me that my conclusions on life lay at a consequence of the unique conditions that set me to determine an interpretation of life that seemed both dull and profound, lull into the string of godly tales of archetypes represented by the pantheon of chain events spanning the course of time for as long as it can be remembered. For the age of thought is unique to how old we remember it to be, evolved over time through the stories of being passed down through the decades of children pass. I walk this rock, stooling in the swirl of images that gave birth to my influence on the behavior of my body, the ideas of conception that influence the thoughts about my ideas, which are in turn more thoughts about thoughts passed through the figures of characters that have gone before. Conceptions like that of my mother's younger sister, the artist and her muse, Alexander, the oldest brother of goats, walking a flowered path of id, de, mal, go, de, el, path, living life in the thralls of aesthetic enjoyment, while my mother, the oldest among 9 cousins, married the gentle, timid soul of my father, the younger brother to a battling Bano of Balanguda, and he, the grousing grumbler of Gaul, sons of a Supreme Court judge, who watched his firstborn walk the path of a tabla playing monk. Aki, this has always been for you. Bathed in flickering candlelight reflected by a hail of polished wood and sitting cross-legged on the platform, she gave him a piercing glare, forcing him to look away. He never had this problem facing another human before, but something about her eyes, something about her presence emasculated him, made him cringe in fear. It was like every ounce of his being was screaming for him to flee. Every fiber in his body was tensed and ready to run. Then she spoke. Approach. I can't seem to move my legs, he whimpered. Try, she smirked. Prove to me your worth. Face the huntress hunting tiger and prevail. It was then that he sensed the presence of another aura, wrapped in and warped within the chakra of this huntress, as he honed in his sensors and paid more attention to the flow of energy. He saw to his astonishment threads of color interwoven between her and the tiger, hues so radiant and abundant, pulsing power and gravitas from every crevice of their being. He was scarred. Her mere presence threatened to crush him. He understood then who and what he was dealing with. It took all his strength to kneel down on one knee, veins ready to pop from the effort. He said, "Please, O night sage, teach me the ways of the shadow. I have journeyed far to learn under your tutelage. I thought you mere legend, yet here you stand as true as the rising sun. Teach me." Very well. Let's begin. Without a moment's notice, the tiger rushed him. An orange blur of muscle and sinew rammed into him with the force of a waterfall, snarling a blood-curdling growl as it put a paw on his chest and began to press. Kashu began to flail for loss of breath, struggling to get free. Give not a foothold to fear, calm your mind and find a solution. How, he yelled, desperately trying to force the massive paw off his chest, pushing up and beyond the burn of his forearms. Think, command your instincts. Kashu knew he hadn't the strength to win a contest of force with the beast. He exhaled steadily, calmed his nerves, and time slowed down. He whipped his leg out from underneath him, wrapped them around the forepaw on his chest, and twisted out from under the paws, simultaneously hooking the tiger's neck with his feet across its chest, and flexed out his body into full extension, managing to grapple the tiger in a pseudo armbar. The amused tiger raised its legs, about to slam Kashu back against the hardwood floor. Sensing the impending destruction, Kashu released the tension with the quickness and coil ready to begin his next sequence. Enough! The tiger held him in mid-swing. Well done. You are the first ape to resist us as such. Your will is strong. Stand, she commanded, and began to rise from her lotus sit with a cat-like stretch. She stood and walked towards him, and as she got closer, he realized she was blind, and yet walked with the assurance and precision of a hawk, her slender figure swaying in the dim glow through the shadows as she stepped towards him, his pulse racing at this sight. She was both menacing and beautiful, a stormy agent of chaos contained in flesh, covered by a translucent red cloth wrapped around her waist, shimmering in the flickering light. Let me examine you. Standing face to face, he could see the detail of her muscles and the sharp lines of her tendons arcing from her shoulders down to her navel. It was a marvel to see and behold. She closed her eyes and touched his face with her right palm, feeding out his features with rough hands, trailing his jawline in an oddly sensual way, down his neck to his chest, while her left hand went to his shoulder and down his arm, tightening her grip on his forearm, running her fingers along the contours of muscle below his elbow, along to his wrist, and pulling his right palm out to be examined. While her right trailed down his chest to his abdomen, he took a sharp breath in, for her touch was electrifying. He shuddered as she teased along his hip, and her right hand drifted to join her left to feel his palm. With his right hand in both her hands, now she asked, "What is your name, my young warrior?" "Kashu," he whispered, he whimpered. "You have good hands. I can see you've been through many trials to get here." "Yes, I have." Letting his hand go, she continued her examination. Circling him now, she moved behind him, feeding out his back. "Flex," she said, and he obeyed. "Rock hard," she commented. As her hands moved from his sides to his stomach and up to his chest, she pulled him, and he could feel her bare breast against his back. "Exquisite," she said. She whispered and proceeded to lick from the base of his neck up to his ear. He couldn't help but glance down as his loins began to stir. "Don't be abashed," she chuckled, glancing down over his shoulder at a now erect bulge in his cloth. She smirked and kissed his neck, all the while the tiger never releasing him from its stare. He began to relax, and instantly she increased the force against his chest. "What are you doing?" he gasped, struggling to breathe. In a flash of speech, he had him in a stranglehold. "Why have you come here? To learn from you? Not good enough? What is your purpose?" "I don't know." "What is your intention?" "To right this world of human error and end this war." "And what is your goal?" "To master the shadows." Suddenly he was spread eagle on the floor, and she was squatting in front of him. "Sit up. You have chosen an impossible task. In a few generations, all your work would be undone. Then, another like me will emerge to journey once again into the shadows and bring back his salvage for the rest of mankind. Good answer. Go to the hut outside and rest. Once you have, join me for a walk. Only few have ever prevailed in sharing the shadows with man. Humanity has yet to erect schools in the name of shadows. This shall be one of your tasks, given you accomplish your goals. May I ask one question before I leave? How is it that you seem to have sight, but you are physically blind in the eyes? I see through Tama, Sattva, Raja. I met him as a cub. We exhausted our talents and tapped into one another's reservoirs for instinct. For instinct is a skill beyond the limits of talents and a skill beyond the energy to practice. What then is talent? Last question, then off you go. Patience, we will take a walk and talk when next we meet. Talent is essentially Greek-derived balance, a defined weight, a pair of measuring scales which later the French modified by Latinizing its use as will, desire, disposition and inclination. So one might consider talent as a balance to will and desire, unlocking tremendous energy by a harmony of aligning one's obsession for improvement. But then Sifu Hawk is language to be able to define talent as such. What is Greek? Who are the French? We are simply native speakers of words, the huntress snapped. In a nameless language and an implicit grammar, with gender-neutral verbs commonly known as characteristically English, and that still says almost nothing about the semantics behind the symbols of language and the feelings of the root sounds and of the babbling syllables in different culture, tenors and manners. We have simply learned to get the better of words and learned of their use in the art of clarity, and learned of their use in the art of clarity. Now, be gone. Do not test my patience. You have not earned my effort yet. You only have my intrigue because I see potential in you. Do not squander your opportunity with this impatient impotence. Yes, mistress, he said with Zen bow. She motioned him and returned the gesture. However, I will say this. When I left the ways of man, I was lost and ended up in a cave guarded by a tree. I was sick of partaking in the grueling affair of carnage and warfare as we scrambled to secure resources for our families and kin. It is both beautiful and ridiculous at the same time. The exploitation for grander, fancier jewels, classier entertainment and phenomenal mansions, compensating for some lack thereof in the fundamental partnership and family units of the species. It seems to be a genuine comedy of errors. Now go! I'm looking forward to your training. It has been eons of memory since last I used my capacity for language to philosophize. I swear to you that I will educate your thoughts. But as for training your mind and body in the martiality of art, I cannot do. We may only practice and spar. The rest is solely dependent on your will to do and will to go all the way beyond your ways. Fuck, I want a cigarette, man. under the tree's influence. A travelling vagabond, a darkened shade, curls pulled back into a tight burn at the crown of his head, draped in a checkered lungi sarong in shades of crimson violet and a t-shirt of afternoon green, sits in a park settling his sling of tobacco and grocery bag of fruits beside his cross-legged knees. Stoned to the brim, he pulls out a chapbook of poems to read bliss in the sunlight as he watches the dogs at play, followed by their keepers in packs of bipedal apes. He talks his pinpoint joint of entry, and before he gets through the first passage of line, play and T, inspiration strikes like a thunderbolt from an urging brain, oceanic tide moving in for the kill. It's time to write The Actor, his first attempt at a profoundly detached piece, where raving lunatics howling lupine tunes from a sculled attic at the lunar cycle of sunny days, man-agers of our aging fibers in fires of sweat-cooling drops. We adopted many roles of characteristically traded abilities, trained by the process of thinking minds, the hunter, the caretaker, the hunted and the haunted, to the engineer behavioring dams for the architect of tools, the vanquished conqueror to fear of the burn harnessing fire-scarred fingers of swollen pus, blisters for the carpenting laborers and designers of our spinal downfall in seats of cane. We strove for more and made time to plant seeds of prosperity and longevity, settling down to be plagued by rats and disease-infested cesspools, for canine companionship was not enough. For the admirers of the aerodynamic grace present in the narcissistic hunters of night vision, for them, we mastered the discovery of future, past, present tense, making way for the inventor who invested time in the act of taking thought and flowing mind into creation. For creation into generation. Still a slave to the ages of man and the frustration of living, watching the moments go by as we forget the observer as Earth Prime, the source from which all identification of life seemed possible. For who are you was the first question that leapt and cried, hell is empty and all the devils are here. Because from that question stems the point of realization that some thinking event existed to even ask the question. Later, harnessing the hide of our fallen predecessors, we mimicked the song of birds and brought to gauge the beating of our hearts in cadence to the thumping of our drums, invoking the experience of lucid fire as we dance around the safety of a campfire, the periphery of conquered territory, leaving only the few brave souls who curated their rage to journey out into the darkness of the unknown. Following the footsteps of our tales-less ancestors who left the haven of branches in nature's lattice of breathing systems, a conjoined ecosystem rooted in the firms of soil erosion, understanding thus to overcome instinct by a means of a psychic gaze, looking up at the stars and to wonder at the distance, limiting infinity to the fortitude of finity. But as he drew to a close, he could not footnote land his dotting full stop. Something was amiss, and so he packed up and journeyed back to his crib, entering his lair to the scene of a messy room with clothes strewn across the floor and images of prophets, clowns, and dancers alike. He was aghast and provoked by the presence of former life. He panicked and realized an overhaul of stuff was out of the question. Concluding that we must manage the pragmatic with the psychic life of thought, he attempted to edit the actor. Big mistake. For as techno glitters go, he corrupted his sinking Evernote only to lose the introductory paragraph of man's stance before his leap of faith defining the state of psychic life. He lost his mind and let the madness set in, for the balance he'd found in marking the left and right, in now and then of order and chaos of yin and yang, climbing the rungs of randomness and coincidence of the hedonist and the shadow. Losing the exploring scientist, he became the man who witnessed his looking stare of middle sea murderer. Watching men as they spit or licked their lips at his demeanor, shivering at the sight of him or encouraged by the presence of him. Watching the dames and grandmas judge him with approval of longing or the dissing of approval. A chalk circle monk was born at dawn and died at dusk, leaving the shell of a broken man to wander the earth in hopes of regaining what was lost. Suffering the plight of the dark ages of man as he began his long walk to freedom from the constraint of haunting memories, recreation was impossible. In reconstruction, however, there was a glimmer of hope, until a jar of jam was awakened again to be present within the cycle of some Sara Nam Krama. No, this is not. There's a meeting here. Whoa, what is this? This is also because, right, you want to refuel and you have no idea how long it's been in the trip. It's been fucking insane. Performance! Better than any top dog's entertainment. The will of D arrives. This is the thing. It is the thing. You've got to do the thing. What thing? We know the thing. Anything. Something. Better than nothing. We need to get ourselves through the labyrinth. But we've got to dive into the fucking labyrinth. Balls to the fucking wall. Like, this is seriously getting tiring. Can we leave the music video? The only way to do that? Micromanage? Agenda? Sober? What does it take to get a little will up in this bitch? And some inspiration? I mean, let's be honest right now. We are an ego-fulfilling hedonist. Why are we continuously massaging this pathetic child who just wants to gratify itself? Do we find meaning in being stoned? No. Do we find comfort in being stoned? I don't know. How could I possibly know? I've never given myself the chance. What about when I wake up? Is the state of the world so boring, so stressful that I need to numb myself with weed? What is it about life that makes me want to stone when I am sober? When I wake up in the morning, why do I feel the need to smoke? Habit? It can't be purely habit. It's more than that. It's a deep-seated insecurity. It's the insecurity of doing nothing with time and our own disgust at the desire. And it helps you tolerate your disgust for the feeling of the urge, it goes back deeper. We've deluded ourselves into believing that this is a higher state of consciousness, when clearly that's bullshit. A higher state of consciousness can only manifest itself with a higher state of being. There is no higher. Okay, so a higher state of being, do we even want that? Sure, higher consciousness. That's always been the dream, but a higher state of being, is that something we would work for? Given that, I'm not even sure if I really want a higher state of being. Why not? What about why? Well, we know why. We might like it. But why not a higher state of being? Because the work is too hard? Come on, man. Do better than that. Because I truly can't be bothered? I mean, why the fuck do I have to go through all of that trouble? I can just live until the day I decide to kill myself, because we have that power. Plus, you had the fucking realization that life is meaningless, so screw you! It's your fault. Boy, let me break it down for you, self-loathing bastard. Decide! You're a fucking coward. You'll never do it. Sure, you'll fantasize about it. Keep fantasizing, and at the age of 60, you'll look back on your life in shame, guilty, and misery, and wish you had done it sooner. And even then you won't do it. Even then you chicken out. Hey, I'd like to think I always want to hurt my family. I'd like to think I'd also not want to hurt my family, my parents. Oh, bite me! Killing ourselves will spare them the suffering of watching this ungrateful child masked in a facade of gratitude dig his own grave. If you truly want to make good on the investment your parents made, you would do something with yourself. True! We were sheltered and were always safe even in the real world. But we have tasted the real world. Did you learn nothing from Royal College, the school of your father? It was called Queen's College, huh? Just the way. But what about your own fucking investment? And here's the really scary part. We haven't even gotten to the deep end yet. We're still splashing around in the kiddie pool. No matter how we like to think of ourselves, we are not self-sufficient. How about I find nothing interesting about a higher state of being? Do you find something interesting about current state of being? Well, not really. Then why not? Is it the potential of interesting enough to drive you? No, because it's a fat lie. Nothing we've ever done has worked out. We've always been beat down, berated, named, you are not enough. So that's an excuse. Yes, people need to take notice of me. They need to know my suffering. Are you blind? They've already seen you. And every time they give you an opportunity to show them your true colors, you instead shoot them in the fucking face, and then you might ask, what do they see when they see you? They see the potential that lies in being Viren Parakrama Ratwatte. They see it because of superconsciousness. That rascal manages to manifest himself more often than you give him credit for. I've seen it because I've seen the superconscious potential. I don't know all that is us, but I genuinely would like to find out. I've seen the capability at hand. I know the tools we have at our disposal. I know the possible skills we possess. We just need to practice the delivery of these skills. You could say right now they exist as suspended instincts. We gotta turn them into reflexive instincts. Imagination. And I see a life worth living if we work. Hey, alright. It's all Body's fault. He's the dickhead who has all these problems, stupid biochemical programming. Hey, don't you fucking lay this shit on me, man. You and consciousness are both the fucktards to blame. And don't get me started on imagination. He is the idiot ego uses to gratify himself, a way to escape the reality of our existence. Ego, now you operate on a simple model, replicable and predictable. Your actions are centered around your opinion of others' opinions of you. But you are a selfish fool that must be caged and utilized for what you are. A tool to direct inspiration and drive consciousness. You are inherently neutral. That is your strength. But if you want to get something done, it is also your greatest weakness. I just want good fuel. I really need fuel right now. And if you are willing to put in the effort into tuning me, I can push the boundaries of my performance, but food is the most important thing. Hey, I get food. Yeah, but you don't care what it is you eat. No, that's not true. You just want easy, tasty food. And you'd rather starve than organize ourselves to cook. Okay, buddy, I hear you. You know us better than any of us. That archaic molecular code that makes all this possible. And that has been keeping us alive for millions of years, and I am on a mission to reharness our dormant abilities, to rediscover the species, recover all the vigor and shit we lost through childhood, but also hold on to the things we gained in order to progress towards this goal. I have to do what I do best and think. Ego. All excuses and reasons are just extrapolations indicated from our patterns of behavior. But I don't believe that we truly believe those things, because I cringe at the moves I make. I can feel it in every fiber. Something is wrong. The only problem is that I have no capacity to deduce what is wrong, only where it is wrong. Analyzing the temporal pattern of these spatial errors across time and space is the domain of consciousness. And predicting the possible patterns that might manifest in the future is the domain of imagination engaged by either one of you. Alright then, here it is. Imagination. I know you helped us a lot in the past. You kept us sane. I do have work for you. I can put you to good use, but right now, you are the bane of our existence. So I task you with this. It's time to scare the fuck out of ego. Will do! That's all you have to say? It's too bad you can't chunk. Goes to show how inferior imagination is. You really are an idiot. Imagination is the reason all of us exist. He is the thing that connects us across the metacognitive space of our brain. Anyway, you get yours soon enough. I have found a way to subdue imagination. Restrict his domain to the page, and the rest will be history. Oh, this is an old fucking piece, man. Really craving sugar, salt, honey, some pick me up for adrenaline on the dance. Now I'm really craving cigarette, and then it just starts back with the whole thing. Coffee and sugar. This is a performance. Madman in his room. With no aesthetic input, writing in the silence of my mind. No stimulus from the hustle and bustle of a crowded cafe, nor the rising and falling of a musical aesthete. I find no inspiring reflections or prompts to follow in subject. I cannot force an idea about anything other than what springs to mind when I bring my attention to that which is in awareness. Therefore, writing the verb as into that which is in my awareness is the act of writing, and my thoughts about what is written and what might say and what that might say about the my status of an unraveling sentence being grammatically coherent and semantically relevant to a subject under interest. Time wanders and there is tension in the organism, a need, an imperative even to have a goal, pursuit in occupation longer than a single sentence. Because when there is no production, the alternative becomes consumption, where the consumption of air is the furthest form of asceticism, where the consumption of air is the furthest form of asceticism, asceticism taken by the organism. When a monk sits in meditation or a writer sits in dialectic in between ideas, there are motions, whereas the monk attempts to consume breath instead of faltering to an itch, a jerk, a sigh of release, or a panicked inhale. The writer holds this tension to pause in consideration about the dialectic unfolding from probable condensations from the imagination. This becomes the game of pursuit that poets, those who have written to the extent of contemplating writing, and authors, artists, that through the occupation of words they reveal to us tenors and tremors of their organism through their idiosyncratic narrative of relating their tenors and tremors to concepts from their collective learning, concepts about life, about attitudes, about passions, desires, interests, stops, and pursuits of organisms with their own flavor. Oh. I forgot to put it on charge. Okay. See, now you're narrating that for the camera like that. This becomes the game of pursuit that poets, those have written to the extent of contemplating writing, and authors, artists, that through the occupation of words they reveal to us tenors and tremors of their organism through their idiosyncratic narrative of relating their tenors and tremors to concepts from their collective learning, concepts about life, attitudes, about passions, desires, interests, stops, and pursuits of organisms with their own flavor, and preferences of pursuing consumption and production, commenting on the predicament of an organism in self-reflection about itself, in its wants and fears, in its regrets and hopes, in its reasons and seasons for a purpose and meaning as the organism moves forward in time, with a cognitive awareness as one of its means of calibration and orientation in its spatial and temporal circumstance. Poetically expounded in the particulars of the dialectic writers, the ascetic attempts to reflect in pure abstraction without reference to any ideas or consciousness, approaching a poverty of words with a preference for dense words that require further explanation and reference for communication to those without direct experience, to relating to their experience as that particular ascetic or poet might relate and reference to their experience of organism. This is where employers of reason found a means of compromising on the idiosyncratic references to a believed experience of pure abstraction through the use of their imagination and discernment of concepts, they enforced a quality of standards by which to measure their conceptions by a manner in which they please, spending several millennia in efforts to refine and formalize their collectively learned formulation of standards by which to measure their living by. Generationally regarding what is deemed subjectively useful, disregarding what is useless, and adding what is authentically one's organism. Organisms discern for themselves what is subjectively useful to them by means of their authority of volition or authority of adoption. Given a particular circumstance, to what seems precious to the residing organism may be resources like water or nicotine or milk, or the totality of materiality and mental recourses for the movements of thought, emotions and physicality that animate the residing organism, whether as a dancer on a stage or a speaker in conversation with the stage. Whether as a dancer on a stage or a speaker in conversation with the stage. We are merely players in an organism's economy of ecology, with other organisms equally unpredictable in the authority of their volition and adoption at the onset. Thus, humanity compels their organism through art and regards. History is littered with examples of these organisms with egos that name themselves and claim themselves as the offspring of their egos, causing disruptions, instructions, constructions, and discussions for the collateral impact of their individual movements in relation to organisms and their own organism. The idea of my memory is the ego in regard to each organism in relation to their collective reality of the subjective realities with debatable and established objective modalities for reality, i.e. physicality and predictive modeling of temporality in the humanities of our scientific understanding about our manipulation of adaptations, inventions and colleges of knowledge that brought history from the forest to the valleys, then cities. A sentence, athletic or aesthetic, addictive need for steady state dopamine release for any organism in motion is the current predicament of the residing organism. To move from conceited efforts to maintain abstraction without reference to particularities of human culture, one considers a significant difference between male and female organisms in their relationship to time, and how that orients their dopaminergic pursuits of their interests. And there was distraction. Everyone gets scared. That's why you gotta keep the music on. Dicks like Wittgenstein wrote with absolute authority and no authority examples of odd circumstances that influence the development of an organism's cognitive insight about their life, similar to the karma normative description to explain variance in enlightenment and provisional capacity of organisms for enlightenment, enlightenment, nirvanic extinction, egoic extinguishment in recurrence, craving some beautic musical exhilarations and accelerations of sensations and breathworks, whether by conditional or volitional motions, is a final symptom of effect to conscious experience. Can't songs, soul be taken as literature, with the musicians as the characters, like in a novel? Yeah!